Hey, what's up, guys? Frosty here with my Hand of the Week series. What I've got for you today is something special. I think you guys are really going to like it. This won't be like my previous videos where I've just talked about a hand that I played. This is actually going to be a session review of this player, carranzapz. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Basically, what happened was this person left a comment on one of my YouTube videos after I was asking people to submit hand histories to be featured in future Hand of the Week videos. And this person just asked me if I'd be interested in doing a session review. So I thought it would be a cool idea. I don't think I'm going to do this too much, but I think you guys will hopefully like it. And yeah, I don't mind doing these every now and then. So yeah, this player was kind enough to record himself for playing for 20 minutes, and then he sent me the footage, and he sent me a description of the HUD that he used, which I posted in the YouTube description if you guys want to follow along. I noticed that there weren't a significant sample on many opponents or any opponents throughout this video, so I'm not going to be relying too heavily on the HUD, but I guess I will touch on it here and there when different situations come up. So with that said, I think I'm going to break this into two parts. Yeah, there's 20 minutes of footage, so I'm looking to get through about 8 minutes in the first part, seeing how we're doing a little bit of an intro, and then the remainder in the second part. And I'm going to be pausing the footage quite a bit. I'm going to basically try to pause it as little as I have to, but there is a lot of action being 4 tables of 25 NL 6 max zoom. So yeah, it might be a little hectic, and I just think I'm going to have to pause probably more than I'd like. But anyways, before we start, let's first of all label these tables so we can all follow the action easier. We'll call the top left table 1, top right table 2, bottom left table 3, and bottom right table 4. And before we start, I will just say that I have skimmed the footage a bit just to try to get an understanding of how our hero plays. And yeah, I'll say that he plays quite well, it seems. Definitely seems like a competent player and seems to have a good idea of people's ranges in a lot of different spots. So I was pretty impressed with the play, and there were just probably a bunch of little minor things, which, you know, can add up to something significant. But yeah, our hero's not making any glaring huge mistakes. It's just a bunch of little things that I kind of picked up on. So with that said, we will roll the footage, but before I press play, it looks like we're already going to be facing a decision on table 4 here with the ace-5 suited. I think I'd like to see the hero 3-bet this hand. I think just based on stack size and bet sizing from the villain and the cutoff, that they're a regular player. And yeah, we only have 58 hands on them, but it looks like they're opening 29% in the cutoff, which is quite a bit. So I'd expect ace-5 suited to be not only ahead of their range, but I just think it has enough immediate fold equity that it's going to be a profitable 3-bet. And even if we do get called, it's obviously fairly playable. I think if you want to keep your 3-betting frequencies in check a bit, you could do something just like 3-bet the suited wheel aces, and then like say like ace-9 or ace-10 plus, and then kind of cut out the middling ones that don't or aren't able to flop many straight draws or straights or whatever. That way you're just not 3-betting every single suited ace, which could bring your frequencies a little bit too high. One more thing I'm going to say is that I'm not going to try to like force my style onto our hero here, or force you guys to play, you know, exactly how I play. I'm just going to kind of give some recommendations, and there's going to be like little differences like bet sizing that I'm not going to like pick apart because I don't think it matters that much, and everybody or there are a lot of different successful bet sizing strategies, etc. So just because I would do something slightly different, I'm not going to like criticize it as a leak. So anyways, long enough, let's start playing. So here chooses to fold. I don't think it's a huge mistake, but yeah, I think it's a profitable 3-bet. Here on table 3, we could lead, it's an option, but I think I prefer just check folding. Yeah, I think if we lead there, they're just going to call too much, and then we're just going to have to check fold too many turns. That 7-6 off on table 4 could have been an open. I noticed throughout the video, I think there's quite a few spots like this on table 3 with 10-5 suited. I think I'm just going to be opening that. Like at 25 and L, I'm probably going to be looking to open something like 60 to 70% of big blinds. I mean, sorry, of buttons. against unknown players because I think they're just going to be folding too much. And then as you get more of a hand sample on players, you can kind of adjust. You can either widen that range versus people who don't defend enough, or you can tighten it versus people who are more sticky. But I think in general, you could, you can open up a poker program and just kind of plug in like 60% and just play the top 60% of hands from the button. It can really just be that simple. Anyways, on table 4 here, obviously standard open with queens, and it checks to us, and we choose to bet. I like a bet here. I think that we can definitely get value from worse. Not only 10x, but I think there's going to be like a decent amount of gutters that are going to call as well. So it's kind of a merge bet. We can obviously check back as well. This is kind of a hand that likes to check back a lot. The problem with that though is that we kind of turn ourselves a little bit face up, and we do expose ourselves to being bluffed off our hand if our opponent just bets 2. So it's important if you are going to check back queens here that you want to check back some strong hands. I mean, queens is fairly strong, but you want to check back some kings and some sets occasionally as well, just to be kind of balanced. So like I said, you can't just be blowing off your hand to a turn and river bet. But yeah, just in general, against an unknown player here, I'm probably just betting as well for value and protection. Back on table 2 there. Let's just back up a sec. Looks like we open ace-9 suited, which is good. And then we get 3-bet. Depending on how many buttons we're opening, I think we need to be defending this. I think we should be opening enough buttons where ace-9 suited is kind of a mandatory defend. It's going to depend on the opponent a little bit, like what their range looks like out of the small blind. I think we can fold against a super tight 3-better, but I think on average we're probably doing pretty well against the 3-betting range here. And that is one of the benefits of min-raising the button, is that the 3-bets are going to be a little bit smaller too, and we can get a pretty good price on defending. So I think I'd like to see the hero just defend this ace-9, but I don't think folding is a glaring leak by any means. It becomes a problem when you're opening just too many buttons, and then if you can't defend that, you're just not defending enough. There's going to be a couple spots here on table 1 and table 3. See what they do on table 3 here, and then I'll pause and talk about both quickly. Looks like they're going for the 3-bet. Okay. On table 1 with ace king, I think you can play a mixed strategy here. I think you can 3-bet. I think you can flat. I think both are fine. You can tailor your play to your opponent, or you can do both against all opponents. It really doesn't really matter. I mean, there's pros and cons to both. If you 3-bet, it's hard to get action from worse. You don't usually love to get the money in this spot. So if you flat, you keep all their dominated aces in their range, etc. But the problem is when you get flops like this, or pretty much any flop without an ace or a king, it's going to be pretty tough to play. Plus, against certain opponents, you will just lose value. So if it's important to know if they're going to be folding to lots of 3-bets. If they're the player who likes to call an excessive amount of 3-bets, then I'm just going to go ahead and put this into my value range. If they're the kind of player who's like super tight from early position and just plays a raise fold game, then I certainly prefer flatting, I think. But as played here, I mean, it's kind of trivial. I think I'm just folding with no backdoor diamond. And yeah, I think that's fine. On table 3, I don't like 3-betting this hand. I think it plays great just by calling. And I think if you're 3-betting a hand like Queen Jack suited, it seems like you might just be playing a razor fold game from the big blind, which I don't think is great, because if your opponent ever picks up on that, then they can just start 4-betting you a lot because they know you're just 3-betting everything. And more importantly, they can kind of just open any 2 cards because they never have to worry about being flatted. So they don't really have to worry about flop playability. So I'm not saying that that's exactly what you're doing, but I think I would prefer just kind of three betting like a polarized range here. Like basically the hands that are too weak to call, I don't mind three betting. Um, and obviously your monsters. And then I kind of prefer just flatting like the middling stuff. So that way you just keep in some stuff that you dominate, and you can play well on a lot of flops with suited cards, and kind of go from there. So we do pick up the chips, which is good. I noticed that one stat that was missing from the HUD was how often the big blind folds to small blind steal. You might want to include that in your HUD. I think it's pretty important. Just going back a second, where you had 7-6 off on table 3 there, that could potentially be an open if somebody's folding way too much. So you could potentially be missing value there. But I mean, I think against most players, it's just going to be a fold anyways. But I think that stat's going to be pretty important. And while I am briefly looking at the HUD here, I think that your first line can pretty much just be taken off that HUD. I think it's just with the first and the second line, I think it just becomes redundant. Like really, the only difference, I guess, is like nobody limps, right? So pretty much the difference between the VPIP and the PFR is just going to be how often people are like flatting early and middle position opens, etc. But I think I would much rather just take that line out and put those stats in a pop-up, or maybe add some cold call stats um, and same with the three bet. Looks like you have three bet by position in there. I think I would rather just put their three bet and then throw those positional stats into a pop-up. I mean, I play with like 60 stats and I don't have any of those stats on my HUD. But I do have the info in a pop-up. But anyways, just a quick aside, I guess. And then getting back to the action, obviously standard open on table 2 with king queen. Bit of a decision on table 4, but I think it's pretty good in standard flat. Flop comes okay. But unfortunately the first player bets quite big and then we get called. It's kind of a tricky spot. I think I do like a fold there, even though I certainly wouldn't fault anyone for a call or think it's bad. It's just like there's a reasonable chance we have the best hand right now, but we can't really raise and overrep our hand. I mean, I guess we could, but I don't know. The first player is betting into two people. They're showing quite a bit of strength, and if we're just calling there's going to be a ton of bad turn cards, and we're not really going to know what to do. So yeah, I think I'm cool with a fold there. Bluff raising seems like an option. I mean, calling still is an option as well, but just against a couple unknowns, I'm fine with just folding there. Hope we're going to open King Jack, which I like. Table 2, I'm definitely going to be isolating this player. And yeah, too much action on table 3, obviously, with King Jack off there. Just going to have to fold. This is one of those things, I usually like to ISO to 4x at least. Hero makes it 3x. I think it's fine. I just prefer going a little bit bigger. Table 4 could be a 3-bet for sure. Just going to quickly go back and see if we have much info on the cutoff, which we don't. Looks like they're possibly a fish with their stack size being a little under full. And against a fishier player, I'm actually less thrilled to 3-bet this hand, because I think we're gonna just get called a lot more, and it's nice to assume we have decent fold equity pre-flop with the suited connector like that, so we can kind of we just win when they fold, and then we kind of rely on the playability as plan B. Whereas if somebody's just calling all the time, we're just kind of bloating the pot out of position with a marginal hand, and it's not going to end well for us sometimes. So I'm fine with folding there. Table one is pretty interesting actually. So we have pocket threes, and all these low pocket pairs are fairly tough to play in these spots. I think that I think that you really don't have to take these marginal spots in cash games, and you can just fold. But there are a few things I like to consider before I decide what to do. I mean, first of all, I'm going to consider who the opener is, how fishy they look, because when you're set mining, it's all about implied odds. It's all about how often you think you're going to get paid off when you hit your set. So this guy looks sort of fishy. I mean, I don't know. It's hard to say. I guess he's got a full stack size. Um, I mean, he actually doesn't look like a complete fish or anything. I'm just like looking at his VIP display, and his bet sizing is pretty big. So based on his bet sizing, it's quite big. I think that we actually could get paid off a decent amount. And then I like to look at who's actually behind me, and it looks like we have a potential fish in the big blind. Some dude playing on their tablet in the small blind, and possibly even a fish on the button. And then the third thing I like to think of is our price we're getting. So this guy's making it like 3.5x. I just think that's like I think it's a little bit too big for us to call here. I mean, like at a min raise, it's like a snap call, and 2.5x is a pretty happy call too. 3x I think is a little iffy. And yeah, 3.5, I don't know. I think it's a little bit too big, but again, it's just one of those things that's close. I don't think a call is like a bad play by any means. I just think I think we're just gonna have to check, or not even check fold. I think we're just gonna have to fold on too many flops. Um, it's also gonna be tougher for more players to come in the pot when somebody opens to 3.5x rather than just like 2 or 2.5. But the big blind comes along anyways. Definitely just folding. And this is, kind of the crappy part about calling with those hands. But yeah, again, we don't really care about that particular result. We're just trying to play play well overall. I think that ace four or ace five offsuit could have been a defend. I think to a min raise is a defend. I think we can flat or three bet, but I don't think we want to be folding. I think the player on the button's probably just opening too much for that to be a fold. Yeah, table one, I definitely prefer three betting, and I like the sizing, and we get a fold, which is fine. Yeah, definitely like the open on table one, and we get min raised. I mean, nothing to do but call at this point. Unfortunately, it looks like we just got to check fold this flop. I mean, we got a little piece of it, but I think we're doing quite poorly, and even if we hit a straight, it could be a heart. Table two, we have a bit of a decision pre-flop there. We get three bet by a player who looks like they're a regular. Um, these spots are just tough. They're just always tough. Um, I don't really think there is like a right or wrong answer here all the time. I think raising, folding, or calling are all fine, and like I want to say it's Ville independent, but in these Zoom games you're just often not going to have many reads, and it's going to be tough. So I think with this hand, along with like tens and maybe queens, I think the standard is probably just a flat. So in that case, I think I like that. I think given the positions, this is not a spot where I'm going to be stoked about getting the money in. Um, and I don't really want to turn this hand into a bluff by four betting. So I think it plays fine enough to a call, and we can hopefully get a favorable flop, basically. And we do get a nice flop. Um, Table four is like is an open, I think. Okay, nice. Okay, and the villain checks back the flop, which is great for us. We almost always have the best hand now. Um, and I think I like betting twice now. I think, I mean, their opponent's going to have an overwhelming amount of give ups, but those give ups are still going to have a decent amount of equity. Like they're going to be like ace king, ace queen, a lot of the time. So if they're giving up on the flop, they're probably just giving up and trying to get to showdown. So for protection reasons, I think we just need to bet this turn. If they check back like nines or tens for some reasons, I'm assuming they're going to call us anyways. And if they're getting tricky with aces or something, then then they're getting tricky. Like it's not like we're going to check fold. We're going to end up check calling ourselves anyways. And if you want to be thinking about your ranges in this spot, I think it's very crucial that we want to be betting these pairs, because we're going to be flatting with stuff like, well, we're going to be flatting stuff that's actually losing to some of the showdown value hands that our opponent would have, like ace king. Like we're going to be flatting like ace queen suited, ace jack suited, ace 10 suited sometimes. So we definitely want to just be trying to make them fold ace king with those hands. So if we're going to be wanting to bluff, then we're going to want to value bet some hands too, so our opponent can't just always call us down. So yeah, I think it's good to balance our ranges here, and just lead the turn and then lead the river, basically with our whole range, unless it's like an ace or something like that, or a card that's better for his range. So yeah, we do lead, which is nice, and yeah, sizing's fine, somewhere around half pot's probably good. Picking up aces on table 4, but we don't get any action. I know I talked about a lot about defending, but I think on table 4 we just want to be folding this to a 3x. The player looks somewhat fishy, which means I don't think we'd have a lot of fold equity pre, and that hand is not going to play well when called, and it's not going to play that well out of position either, so I think we can just fold it. Table 1, we choose the 3-bet king queen, which I like because this player looks fairly fishy, and I would expect them to call a lot of 3-bets with worse hands. Against flatting is certainly an option. Against I don't know, maybe like a tighter regular player, I'd probably choose to flat it so we don't get 4-bet. And we keep some dominated hands in as well. We choose to flat with ace king on table 3, which seems to be our hero's default play, and we just have to fold that flop, obviously. Pick up kings on table 2, looks like we're going for a 3-bet. Yeah, which I like, against pretty much everyone. Even given those positions, I think you want to be 3-betting enough where you can at least stack kings and aces pretty much anywhere. You can, there can be a few exceptions if somebody's crazy tight. We go ahead and c-bet. I think it's good, even though we have the board absolutely crushed. We're going to be c-betting this with probably our whole range, I would assume. King XX boards are obviously good for the 3-better, so we're going to have all kinds of hands here still. We get check raise, which is obviously delightful given that we have the nuts. I think anything but calling here is just going to be a mistake. The board's very dry. If we let him get there with like 10 jack, then so be it. I think our villain is making a pretty big mistake here by check raising anything. So like, first of all, our range is uncapped, so we can, and in this case we do have the nuts here. So it's a good board for our c-betting range, but we're also going to just have a ton of kings in our range. So if our villain's check raising here, he's check raising into a really strong range quite often, and he's really just, the only hands he's making us fold really are our bluffs. So if he does have like a set or like 2-pair, like I think he's probably just better off check calling, and hoping that we barrel off with our bluffs or end up value betting worse. Because yeah, when he's check raising here, he's check raising into a pretty strong range, and he's not repping a whole lot, so I don't think he's going to get much credit, which is fine if he actually has a value hand. But by the same token, if he has a value hand and I have a value hand, the money's probably going in by the river anyways. So yeah, I don't really like a check raise here with anything. I think he's just check raising into an uncapped range, which yeah, doesn't seem great. So yeah, I assume we're gonna call and let him keep bluffing / just cooler him if he has a set or a 2-pair. Table 4, I kind of missed the action, but I think we just opened 8s and get called in 3 spots. Then we get let into, mm, I mean, I think a call is fine, but I probably just prefer fold 4 ways here. Uh, I don't know, that might be a little bit too nitty, but I feel like we're gonna get barreled a lot on the turn, and we're not really gonna know where we stand, and we still have 2 other opponents left behind us. I wouldn't fault our hero for calling here, but I think I prefer just folding. Um, Table 4 with 7-5 suited, again, that could be a 3-bet, kind of like an option play. I think I'm gonna wrap up the video after this king's hand because yeah, we're already 25 minutes in, and I've gone through about 7 minutes of footage. So villain shoves the turn. Obviously, we snap with the nuts, see what they had. Pocket queens. That's interesting. Table 1 here. Looks like villain folds to a lot of 3-bets, so I like the 3-bet. I think flatting is an option too. But yeah, let's just wrap it up there. Go back to what he had there, pocket queens. I have no idea what he was doing. I mean, it looks like he was turning into a bluff, but that seems pretty bad. I mean, he's pretty much just folding out worse and always getting called by better. So I think he's better off check calling or just check folding. But if he doesn't believe us, then he should at least probably check call and hope that we continue bluffing what looks like a good board for our hand. So anyways, yeah, that'll be part 1, guys, and let me know what you think. Again, if I missed any spots, just ask me, or if you just are curious about some of the things that I said. There's a lot of things that I said and quite a bit of information, and I'm not sure if I might have just messed up somewhere, or something that I said might have not made any sense. So feel free to call me on it. Otherwise, I will get working on part 2 and put it out next week. Alright guys, this has been Frosty. Good luck at the tables.